Imagine yourself walking through a gentle evening garden, one much like the spaces where Aristotle once taught in the Lyceum. The air is still, soft, and unhurried. Before we begin exploring his ideas, take a slow breath. And if you're new here, remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more philosophical sleep meditations like this. Aristotle invites us into a world where thinking is not a battle, but a careful observation of life as it naturally unfolds. He wasn't interested in escaping the world or retreating from the senses. He believed wisdom begins exactly where you stand, in the ordinary, in the tangible, in the things you see and touch every day. Truth is not far away. It's woven into everything round you. In this quiet space, Aristotle becomes a patient guide. His method is gentle. Watch the world, understand its patterns, and then slowly uncover what it means to live well. He believed that calm reflection wasn't a luxury. It was a basic condition for living a meaningful life. So, as we move deeper into his philosophy, let the mind settle, the body soften, and the noise of the day drift outward. You are walking into the heart of one of history's greatest thinkers. Not through argument, but through understanding. Here, clarity grows like a slow sunrise. The four causes, understanding why things exist. Aristotle loved beginnings, not in the sense of origins frozen in myth, but in the sense of uncovering why things exist and behave the way they do. To him, nothing is random. Everything has reasons quietly nested inside it, like layers of meaning waiting to be understood. He called these layers the four causes. Picture something simple, a wooden cup. In Aristotle's calm, observant way, he'd say you can't truly understand the cup unless you see it from four angles. Its material cause is the wood itself, the substance that gives it shape. Its formal cause is the pattern or design, the idea of cupness that makes it a cup rather than a plank. Its efficient cause is the craftsman, the hands that shaped it. And its final cause, the most important to Aristotle, is the purpose, the reason it exists at all, to hold water. But this isn't about cups. It's about you. When you lie awake at night wondering about your path, Aristotle gently reminds you that everything in your life has its tangled network of causes too. You didn't arrive here through one event, but through many. Your habits, your choices, your environment, your hopes, they all shape the form of who you are. The final cause, your purpose, isn't something you need to be anxious about. It's something that reveals itself slowly, the way dawn reveals the edges of a landscape. For Aristotle, purpose isn't a prize you chase. It's a direction your nature quietly leans toward. In this moment, as you breathe and settle deeper into yourself, allow the idea of purpose to soften. It's not a demand. It's simply the idea that your life has a direction, even when you cannot see it clearly. Virtue as the middle way. Aristotle didn't believe that wisdom lived in extremes. To him, the good life was like walking a narrow but steady path between two cliffs. On one side lies excess, too much emotion, too much desire, too much impulse. On the other side lies deficiency, too little courage, too little compassion, too little engagement with life. Virtue rests in the middle, not as a compromise, but as a harmony. Imagine courage. Too much of it becomes recklessness, charging into danger without thought. Too little becomes cowardice, shrinking away from the responsibilities of living. But the right amount, the balanced middle, becomes true courage. The willingness to face what is difficult because it is meaningful. Aristotle applies this pattern to everything. Generosity, patience, ambition, honesty. Each virtue is a tuning of the soul. a careful calibration that takes practice. Just as a musician cannot play beautifully without repetition, Aristotle believed the mind cannot be calm or steady without learning how to act well. Again and again, and here's the part people often miss, Aristotle didn't think virtue was about perfection. It was about becoming attuned to your own nature, finding the middle point that makes you steady. Rather than following a rigid ideal forced onto you, tonight, as your breath slows down, let the idea of the middle way settle over you like soft fabric. You don't need to be flawless. You don't need to push yourself to extremes. You're invited to find the gentle balance between doing too much and doing too little, between overreaching and retreating. This middle space, calm, human, grounded, is where Aristotle believed the good life quietly lives. The role of habit in shaping character. Aristotle had a simple but relentless warning. Who you become is shaped by what you repeatedly do. Character is not a gift. It isn't discovered fully formed inside you. It is crafted, slowly, deliberately, through your habits. Each action, no matter how small, is like a brushstroke on the canvas of your soul. Over time, these strokes accumulate into a picture of who you are. If you act with kindness, you become kind. If you practice patience, you become patient. If you choose discipline, you become disciplined. But the reverse is also true. Neglect small actions long enough, and they quietly sculpt you in ways you don't notice until much later. Aristotle compares this to learning a craft. You don't become a builder by reading about construction, or a musician by simply admiring melodies. You become skilled by doing the thing, again, and again, and again, until your hands know the motion instinctively. Virtue works the same way. This idea carries a calm kind of responsibility. It means that transformation isn't dramatic, it isn't sudden, it's gentle, it's daily. It's woven into choices so small they almost seem insignificant, even now, as you lie here, drifting slowly into a quieter state. Aristotle would remind you that rest is also a habit, a training of your mind toward peace. Every breath you take tonight strengthens the rhythm. Every small decision to slow down becomes part of who you're becoming. Your character isn't fixed. It's a living thing, and with each habit, each choice, you shape it into something steadier, kinder, wiser. The unity of soul and reason. Aristotle saw the human soul not as something mystical floating above life, but as something deeply woven into it. To him, the soul wasn't separate from your body or your daily actions. It was expressed through them, and at the heart of the soul, guiding it, shaping it. Giving it direction was reason. Reason, for Aristotle, is not cold logic or harsh calculation. It's the quiet inner compass that helps you recognize what truly matters. It's the gentle voice that tells you when something feels right, not because it is easy, but because it aligns with your deeper nature. He believed the soul has different parts, one driven by desires, one capable of reflection. Harmony comes when reason guides desire, not by suppressing it, but by understanding it. Desires aren't enemies, they are powerful, raw forces. Reason is simply the navigator, steering them toward what is good rather than what is merely pleasant. Think of a ship on a moonlit sea. The waves are your impulses, your emotions, your instincts. They aren't wrong, they're natural. But without a steady hand on the wheel, the ship drifts. With reason at the helm, the voyage becomes purposeful. Aristotle's picture of the soul is gentle, not demanding. He doesn't ask you to deny your humanity, your hopes, your fears, your cravings. He asks you to understand them, to bring awareness into them, to guide them with thoughtfulness. Just as a craftsman guides raw materials into a beautiful form, as you settle deeper into calm, feel that unity within yourself. The emotional, the rational, the bodily. They are not at war. They are seeking balance. And Aristotle believes that when reason quietly leads, the whole soul moves toward harmony, clarity, and peace. The importance of habit. Aristotle had a wonderfully grounded view of human behavior. Instead of imagining virtue as something you acquire in a single epiphany or a sudden moment of enlightenment, he saw it as something more humble, more earthly, and far more realistic, the result of repeated actions. Habit, to Aristotle, is the quiet architecture of the soul. You become courageous by practicing small acts of courage. You become patient by choosing patience in little moments. You become wise by consistently reflecting, even briefly, on your choices, in his view. Character isn't something you have, it's something you build. This is one of his most compassionate insights, because it removes the pressure to be perfect in any single moment. You are not defined by dramatic gestures or philosophical grandstanding. You are shaped by the small, almost unnoticeable decisions you make every day. Think of a stonecutter tapping at a block of marble. One strike means nothing. 10 strikes barely make a mark. But after thousands of taps, the stone begins to take shape. Character works the same way. Each action, each repetition, each choice is a tap on the marble of the self. Aristotle believed that excellence is not an act but a habit, is steady, gentle accumulation that slowly transforms who you are. It isn't glamorous, it isn't loud, it's a quiet discipline, a subtle reshaping that takes place in the background of your life, often without your awareness. And the beauty of this is that habit is accessible. You don't need brilliance. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need to wait for inspiration. You only need consistency. Small choices aligned toward the person you want to become. As your breathing softens and your mind settles, consider this: every calm breath is itself a habit, a practice of returning to stillness. Aristotle would say that in moments like this, you are not simply relaxing, you are sculpting your inner life, one subtle repetition at a time. The rhythm of choice and action. Aristotle saw human life as a constant interplay between thought and action, a rhythm. Like inhaling and exhaling, thinking alone isn't enough, acting without thinking isn't enough. A meaningful life emerges only when the two move together, shaping and refining each other. He argued that every choice you make begins with a seed of intention, what he called prohairesis, the deliberate decision of the will. This isn't impulse, it isn't instinct. It's the moment your mind weighs possibilities, considers consequences, and commits to a direction. But intention, as he reminds us, is sterile without action. Nothing changes until thought steps out into the world. This balance between reflection and action is where his philosophy becomes deeply practical. He understood that people often swing to extremes. Some get trapped in endless thinking, waiting for perfect certainty. Others rush into movement without examining their motives. Aristotle insists that virtue, real excellence, requires the harmony of both. He would say your choices shape your destiny, but your actions give those choices weight and reality. The inner life and the outer life must speak to each other. When you pause and reflect, you clarify your aim. When you act, you test that aim against reality. Action teaches you what thought alone cannot, and reflection refines what action alone would distort. This rhythm is gentle, almost musical. You don't have to get it perfect. You only have to keep it moving. Intend, act, reflect, again and again. Over time, this loop becomes a path. and the path becomes a life. As your body drifts deeper into stillness and your breath grows slow and heavy, consider how every quiet moment of awareness tonight is part of that rhythm. You reflect now so you can act with clarity tomorrow. Each calm breath is part of the dance between your inner world and the life you will live when you wake. Aristotle's legacy and why his ideas still matter. Aristotle didn't just leave behind a library of books. He left behind an operating system for thinking. His work became the intellectual backbone of Western civilization for nearly 2,000 years. And the reason is simple. He tried to build a complete map of reality, a map that connects ethics, logic, science, politics, and human purpose into one unified vision. His influence on medieval scholars was enormous. Thinkers like Thomas Aquinas practically treated Aristotle as a second language. Universities across Europe shaped their entire curriculum around his writings, especially his logic and metaphysics. For centuries, if you wanted to be educated, you had to wrestle with Aristotle. But here's the part that matters today. Aristotle's approach to knowledge, slow, careful, empirical, grounded in observation, still shapes how scientists think. Biology textbooks still echo his early categories. Political theory still uses his blueprint for analyzing constitutions. Ethics classes still debate his virtue theory. Even modern psychology borrows from his insights about habit formation. Not was he right about everything? Not at all. Some of his scientific claims aged poorly, but the spirit of his method, the insistence on observing the world as it is, rather than imagining how it should be, is timeless. Aristotle reminds us that understanding the world requires patience, structure, and the courage to question our assumptions, and in a time when everything moves at ridiculous speed, his slow, steady way of thinking feels like intellectual oxygen. This brings us to the end of our deep dive into Aristotle. If you enjoyed this exploration and want more journeys through the minds of history's greatest thinkers, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next episode. The doctrine of the golden mean. Aristotle teaches that virtue lies in balance, a principle he calls the golden mean. Every moral quality exists between two extremes, deficiency and excess. Courage, for example, lies between recklessness and cowardice, generosity between prodigality and stinginess. This balance is not rigid. It requires careful, practical judgment, adapted to each circumstance and individual. The golden mean is an active, living principle. It is applied in daily life, in our choices, our actions, and our relationships. By striving for moderation, we cultivate harmony within ourselves and with the world around us. In the quiet of reflection, imagine examining your own life through this lens. Consider where your actions might tip toward excess or deficiency, and gently guide yourself toward equilibrium. This practice nurtures calm, ethical clarity, and the steady cultivation of virtue. Practical wisdom. Phronesis. Aristotle emphasizes that practical wisdom, or phronesis, is the intellectual virtue that enables us to make right decisions in complex, real-life situations, unlike theoretical knowledge, which deals with universal truths. Practical wisdom is about discerning the correct course of action in the ever-changing circumstances of human life. This virtue is cultivated through experience, reflection, and moral habituation. It guides us in applying the principles of the golden mean, balancing extremes and acting in ways that promote both our own flourishing and that of others. Practical wisdom requires attentiveness, patience, and the ability to foresee the consequences of our choices. Imagine, in the quiet of night, that your mind quietly weighs options, not in haste or judgment, but with careful reflection and awareness. Each thoughtful decision strengthens your capacity to act virtuously, cultivating calm, clarity, and ethical confidence. The role of friendship in the good life. For Aristotle, friendship is not a mere social convenience, but a fundamental aspect of human flourishing. True friendships are built on virtue, mutual respect, and shared pursuit of the good life, providing support, guidance, and moral companionship. Friendship teaches us about ourselves and others. It mirrors our virtues and faults, encourages growth, and strengthens our understanding of ethical living. The bonds formed through virtue-rich friendships are essential for a life of eudaimonia, the highest human good. In the stillness of reflection, consider the importance of those who accompany you on your journey. Feel gratitude for connections that nurture virtue, inspire reflection, and provide calm guidance. Friendship, in Aristotle's thought, is both a source of joy and a mirror of our moral character, grounding us in the ethical life. A gentle descent into sleep. As night deepens, let the wisdom of Aristotle guide your mind into calm reflection, from the careful balance of the golden mean to the pursuit of eudaimonia and the cultivation of practical wisdom. Aristotle shows us a path to living thoughtfully, virtuously, and with purpose. Friendship, ethical reflection, moderation, and self-awareness form the rhythm of a good life, offering clarity, serenity, and moral grounding even amidst life's uncertainties. By considering your choices, nurturing virtue, and embracing reason, your soul finds steady calm and quiet strength. Before you drift fully into rest, a gentle reminder: if you enjoyed this exploration of Aristotle's philosophy and wish to experience more calming, thought-provoking content, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Your support allows us to continue sharing these reflective journeys with you. Let the principles of virtue, friendship, and practical wisdom carry your mind into peaceful sleep, filling your thoughts with calm reflection, ethical clarity, and gentle assurance.